let's go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Rose Breen. I am a CFES Gear Up Fellow here at CFES Brilliant Pathways. I am joined here by three members of the Adirondack Foundation, and they are joining us as part of our Early College and Career Awareness Week. So this week we have a variety of events going on, trying to get both students and families involved in thinking about the future, whether that's college, whether that's career, and all of the things that are involved in that and that might help you on that transition as a student. So I will kind of let them go ahead and take it away, introducing themselves, but we'll talk just more broadly about extracurriculars and volunteering and how all of that helps on both the college application process, but also helps you to develop as a person and be a better student and better prepared citizen. All right.
Thanks, Rose. My name is Andrea Grout. I am the program officer at Adirondack Foundation, and I live in Lake Placid, New York. And we've had a relationship with CFES Brilliant Pathways for a while now. Just a little bit about what Adirondack Foundation is, for those who don't know. Since 1997, Adirondack Foundation has been a trusted and valued resource for community philanthropy. Adirondack Foundation is one of more than 700 community foundations across the country, and we help connect generous donors with the causes that they care about in the places they love. And our funding comes from many people who care deeply about the Adirondacks, and we have more than 260 charitable funds, and we support hundreds of nonprofits annually in many different ways. My work here, I kind of came to it accidentally after many years of jumping around from different jobs, but my job is to help people with making grants, and so we're kind of the philanthropic hub for the Adirondack region, which means we use our assets and people and knowledge and money to strengthen our communities by making these grants to nonprofit organizations and schools, and through something many students on this call could relate to, scholarships to students. So we like to ensure that everyone who loves this region can not only live here but thrive here as well. And just an interesting fact, since 1997, we've awarded more than $54 million in grants, which is really amazing and exciting. And so with that, enough about the foundation in general, I'll pass it to Stanzi.
Hi, everybody. Good to be with you all today. I'm Stanzi Bliss from the foundation. My title is the Director of Giving and Communications. So I work in our development office plus team with them, and also in our communications. And I apologize, I was a little late. I have a toddler, so I was daycare pickup time. So I was doing a handoff with a grandparent. But I heard Andrea sort of mention her pathway to the foundation, and I'm really excited to be here because I think service and serving others has been very important to me throughout my life. So I'm excited to talk about like my personal experience in high school. But that pathway sort of led me into the Peace Corps, and then came back to the Adirondacks, where I'm originally from, and entered into the nonprofit world and been here since. And it's great. I just wanted to talk a little bit more about Adirondack Foundation's work, just to expand a little bit on what Andrea just mentioned. So we've been around for over 20 years now, and we have learned a lot in those 20 years about community needs, and we've done several research studies on what community needs are in the region to confirm those, and out of that has grown what we're calling our Strong Community Framework. So this is really sort of a guide that helps us determine where our grant-making dollars are going. So we focus on what we call 5 whole community areas within our Strong Community Framework. And those are basic needs, educational pathways, community and economic vitality. And those are really our 3 kind of strongest focus, because we want to make sure those really basic elements of life, as Andrea said, so that the people who live here in the Adirondack region can really, thrive here if they would like to be here. But also two other elements that make up a whole community are arts and culture and the environment. So those are all that really encompasses where our grant making focus is at this point for the foundation. So look forward to digging in a little bit more.
Awesome. I'll take it from there. I'm actually not an employee of the Adirondack Foundation, but you might be tricked, because I definitely carry the banner, wave the flag, so to speak. I grew up in Plattsburgh, New York, went away to school in Maine, ended up transferring to a school in Maine, had some time off between years. I had a very squirrely way through college, and ended up moving back to a place I love, Adirondacks, in the greater region. And what I do with the foundation is I work as I don't see it here, I have work. I volunteer as the community council chair. And the community council is a newly formed council that's basically just going to elevate those community voices, looking for spheres of influence throughout a very large region, one of the biggest state parks, if not the biggest state park in the US. So getting people from all different corners of this region to talk about what's going on in their communities and where are the challenges, where are the opportunities, and to elevate those voices so that the staff of the foundation, as well as the board of trustees, can hear directly from the source. When I moved back, I was basically voluntold that I needed to find something in the community that I was going to spend my time doing. And what was this from my mother, who's also my boss. But her advice as well was said, find something that really is a passion, that you're not just doing just to do, but something that you really want to do. And I think landing with the Adirondack Foundation has been a blessing because the work they're doing has direct impact on this area. And that's why I wanted to commit my spare time to helping them in any way I can. So I'll pass it back to you, Rose, with that.
Great. Thank you all so much. It's great to learn a little bit more about you and the Adirondack Foundation in general. I will play a quick video that explains even a little bit more.
This place, these mountains, these lakes, these towns,
they mean something different to each of us.
an escape,
A place of solitude.
A community. A home.
we help Americans.
We believe in the potential of every child. We treasure our communities.
We are driven to succeed.
And like the landscape from which we carved out our lives,
We are unique.
And inspired.
And like the terrain, we are resilient. Like the rivers and lakes we carve together.
To live, grow, and thrive.
And like the mountains, we rise.
we're here to help everyone thrive in this place we love, to provide opportunities and support. The best way to love the Adirondacks is to give back.
All right. So that was definitely a great summary and kind of showed us some of the wonderful things that we get to do in the Adirondacks. So I guess I'll kind of open up with the first question and kind of whoever wants to take it can go. What are some of the extracurricular activities in general? Like what can people do? What are extracurriculars? But specifically in the Adirondacks that students can get involved with and participate in.
I'll take that one. So it's it's interesting that you ask, and the timing of this is great because it just so happens that this past weekend we held in Lake Placid my favorite volunteer opportunity. I happened to help coordinate our Lake Placid annual cleanup day. And it's a really fun event that we hold each spring that involves, organizing people and gathering volunteers and publicizing the event to encourage people to sign up for areas to clean and pick up the litter that happens. And because we didn't do it last year with COVID, it was quite an undertaking. But, some of the best volunteers I have are high school students. They sign up through their different clubs like the Key Club, or as you mentioned earlier, Rose, National Honor Society. Volunteering for things like this, it helps us build community and social engagement, and it gives everybody, it's a great way for people to work together toward a common goal, to make your village or town shine. And it's just one way to give back. I enjoy organizing it because taking care of our environment and giving back is really important to me, but it's also important to help people, to see people take pride in cleaning up their community. And volunteerism gives us all a chance to feel connected to something bigger than ourselves and giving back. And the Adirondacks lend itself really well to getting involved in things happening in the community because there's so much going on here. Many of you probably all know it's the Olympic region, and we have large scale events here, which kind of makes it ripe for the picking of opportunities to give back and volunteer. For example, we have the Ironman race, and that happens in Lake Placid, and Tin Man and Tupper Lake, and lots of marathons and things in the region, and those events always need lots and lots of volunteers because it takes a ton of hours of people power to put those big events on. And so those are great opportunities to give back and get involved, and kind of gives you not only an opportunity to volunteer, but to sort of get a sense of the place, and the Olympic spirit is ripe here and really rich, and it makes it's a lot of fun to see what makes this place such a cool place to live and be. And all of the world-class events, we have World Cup bobsled and luge activities, and Nordic skiing and college ski festivals and races and things, and those are great ways to get involved too. And they're always, like I said, needing volunteers. But on a more local level, or to bring it down to schools, the school programs always need help, and a lot of our after school programs and reading programs and math tutoring programs are always looking for high school students to volunteer and get involved, and earn a lot of those community service hours that are important for kids. And so those are just a couple of examples, and I'm going to just pass the baton to whoever else wants to chime in.
Yeah, that actually made me think, because volunteering for like Olympic events, you get to kind of be involved and see the Olympics. So rather than, having to pay going as a participant, as someone to watch as a fan, you could go and volunteer and still get to be involved in something so huge and incredible, but be giving back at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's pretty exciting to get to see the competitions live, like being a gatekeeper or a timer right up front and personal, and see the athletes and meet them. It's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, we live in a pretty exciting place, that's for sure, when it comes to events and finding opportunities like those to volunteer for. I will just draw on my personal experience in high school, and I'll say that I actually didn't grow up in the Adirondacks. I'm from here originally, but I moved when I was younger. So I went to high school in Pennsylvania. But I would say that no matter where you are, there are volunteer opportunities, I think, that translate anywhere. Key Club is something I was incredibly active in when I was in high school, all 4 years in high school. And so I think there's so many, consistencies no matter where you are. Here in the Adirondacks, I love to bring up this example because I think it's one of the best student-led creations I've ever come across in my life, and that's the Wild Center's Youth Climate Summit. So that's a local example. But I would say, like, I'm getting into the next question, which is, how do you get involved a little bit? But I think when you're kind of at the onset of thinking, okay, like, what do I want to do with my extracurricular time? First, I would warn when it comes to those college applications, if that's the path that you want to take to pursue going on to college, I would say, just be wary about putting things down on paper, just put them down on paper. Don't sign up for a club or something to get involved in just because. I think, it's important to ask yourself a couple questions. And I loved when Andrea said, this is something I'm passionate about, because that's something when you're getting involved in extracurricular activity, you have to ask yourself, what am I passionate about and what do I love? But on the flip side, beyond, what do I need in my life is what do I think I might want in my life? How can I think about, what things can I explore through extracurricular activities? So it's asking those two questions to kind of determine, I like doing this. This is a definite yes. And then, use it as an opportunity to explore too. But I would say there's so many different avenues. There's, of course, your school slate of clubs. That's obviously like a great place to start. And there's I was involved in everything from sports, and I think sports, if that's your mode, that's a great avenue to learn about so many aspects of life. The arts, if you want to get involved in a school drama, and then with those things, there's philanthropic arms. Like, all of my sports teams volunteered for things. I think that's very common here in the Adirondacks, is to see athletes volunteering for things. And then there's obviously your traditional clubs and all of that, but there's also things outside school. I think, if you come across something that you're passionate about and it doesn't exist here, I would encourage anybody to not stray away from thinking about starting something like that student who started the Youth Climate Summit at the Wild Center. But if there's a national organization that you can bring locally and you're passionate about starting it with a dedicated group of friends, and adults, obviously you need an adult to get you started, but to supervise. But, your church youth groups are a great way to explore some options. And then things that your parents might be involved in, whether that's, what they volunteer, whether it's at a local food pantry or something like that. So those are kind of, when you're starting out and trying to think about what are things that I'm interested in and that I love, I think those are two important questions to ask. And then there are various avenues, as I just mentioned, that you can kind of go down and see where it leads you.
Yeah, I'll pop in on this. I think, when I'm thinking back to my, my coming up, I don't think I knew about any other opportunities other than probably what the school was presenting. And I think that's very normal. And, I think it's also one thing that will always carry on is the stress that any rising high schooler feels, that I need to be in having arts, and I need to have the sport, and I need to, be helping little ladies across the street. And I have to have pages of how good a person I am. But I think that what's true of any, and this is building off what Stancy says, colleges, when they're going through the application process, they're going to realize what you truly have a passion about. And what, did somebody just do this because it looked good, or did someone do this because they have a passion about it? And before, you let other people, I think, I'm thinking about when I was coming up into college, I would just have these answers ready just to shut down the conversation, because everybody has these questions for you. What are you going to do? What are you going to major in? What schools are you applying to? And it was, oh my gosh, just a lot of pressure on high school students is not fair. But how do you balance that? Is that you make sure that your volunteer, whatever you're doing for volunteer, you're doing it for you, and that you're finding something that's speaking to your soul. And when I think of what's going on right now in the Adirondacks, and I can speak to this on a local level, we've got a lot of young people who are moving back to the region who are bringing a lot of energy into the region. And they're capitalizing on what's already there, which is a community of people who wants to help each other. I think that's something I'm very proud of where I'm from, is a community of people who wants to help each other. And there's young people who are seeing that trait and capitalizing on it. One of the organizations called ADK Action, they're doing a lot of work with communities and access to food. And they're a nonprofit and they need help. And they have an email list where you can sign up, where they email you. We got a volunteer thing happening, this day. We're going to be planting pollinating gardens. We need this many people. That's something that you can jump on. When it comes to the park itself, we've got a land use issue up here where we've got an unprecedented amount of people coming up and using our state park. That's leading to leave no trace issues. That's leading to, overcrowding issues, however way you want to spin it. The Adirondack Mountain Club, they need volunteers. They have high school programs for people to learn about leave no trace so they can educate more people so that those trails are used the right way and that it's more sustainable going forward for future generations. If that's something that speaks to you, we can share links at the end if you're local. But the point is that you can choose to see the negative in your community and say, oh, there's no opportunities. This place is, it's easy to get down in their hometown, but you don't have to ask me. But there's also very much, I guarantee wherever you're listening in today or if you're local to the Adirondacks, there's a lot of positive things happening as well. And people who need help and are readily willing to accept that help. And if you care about, something like the environment, there's opportunities for you in the park where you can say, help people learn about using trails in the proper way. And this has been an issue in our local region, and I'm trying to be part of the solution. I mean, wow, if you're a person looking at somebody's application, that's going to stand out because it's going to come from the heart and it's going to be genuine. So, yeah.
That's great. Thank you. It's great to hear kind of all of the opportunities. I didn't even realize half of these opportunities existed. So it's great to hear them. I'm actually going to switch up our order of questions just kind of based on your answers. Your answers got me kind of thinking about the essential skills. So I will put them in the chat for our presenters just in case you don't remember. But kind of things that I started hearing about. Working together with others towards a common goal. That's teamwork and goal setting at the same time. Thinking about what Colin just said about how there are problems and things that we're noticing that aren't so good about the Adirondacks, but how do we get involved to change that? So using that mental agility to think about it as an opportunity rather than a challenge. And of course, networking, right? You have all of these huge numbers of people, and this becomes your network. It's people who can help, people you can lean on to support. And then bringing it back once more to the college applications. So, it's not necessarily about the number of volunteer opportunities that you've had or extracurriculars or whatever it is. It's about what skills have you learned from these, right? As much as you're giving back to the community, you're also getting something out of it. And you're probably building your teamwork skills, your leadership skills. So there's certainly a lot about it. So do you have any examples of kind of how the essential skills get involved with volunteering? Any situations or just kind of how you think they fit together? I'll open that up to anyone.
Sure, I'll go. And I think, I can just tie it back to the same example I used earlier with the cleanup days, activities like that where lots of people are involved. There are a ton of different players. You have to work with, different facets of local government and county government and school people and trying, the business community. So if you are, either coordinating volunteer events or you're volunteering, it helps you directly by building organizational skills and, group management. How do we get, we always use the term herding cats, when you're trying to get a lot of people to do something. So that really, you use all of these skills like communication and group management and being able to, being a strong communicator is so important for something like that because you need to incorporate public relations. You have to be able to tell everybody what's going on and make sure you're sharing information in a clear and concise way. And so all those things really matter. And, being able to have good attention to detail and tracking details and tracking people that are volunteering. It's really important, equally important to being, detail oriented and things like that is being able to be flexible and thinking on your feet. A prime example is, we had our cleanup day set for May 8th or May 1st rather, and we were all ready to go, and then it snowed 6 inches, and you can't clean up your village and find the garbage when there's 6 inches of snow on the ground. So you have to be able to pivot and okay, so what are all the things that we have to do to be able to move that whole event? And so it involves, mental agility and, life is always going to throw you a curveball when you're in college or you're, trying to get there. There's a lot going on in your life. And so you have a lot of things you have to be able to juggle at once. And that's a really important skill. So, it's important that you can think creatively and be able to see through to the end goal because sometimes, seeing the forest through the trees is really challenging, but that's kind of what it's all about. And I think, just bringing it back to the personal, and Colin and Stanzi both mentioned it so much, it's so important to make it something that you're passionate about because if you're passionate about something, and it makes doing the volunteerism and doing the things that are going to get you to your end goal, whether it gets you into college or gets you a job, that just makes it better because you're going to be better at it if you enjoy what you're doing. And it gives you a strong sense of pride. I think working with other people and teamwork building, networking, meeting your neighbors, all those things help you to care about your town, your village, your sense of place, and it gives you pride in what you're doing. And that kind of thing can provide you with a really limitless batch of opportunities and skills that will send you on to your next whatever it is, and you can make lasting friendships and have amazing, meaningful experiences while you're doing it.
Yeah, I'll just build off of that. I think, Andrea was just alluding to the fact that when you're starting out with extracurriculars, and it's such a great pathway into exploring what it means to be part of a community. So, and that's all of our work at the foundation is trying to strengthen communities. So I love that. And I think for me, what I discovered was one of my most valuable takeaways was just kind of the evolution of my involvement with a lot of things that I took part in high school. I think, going back to the quality over quantity thing, I think that's so important. And I'm going to keep harping on that because I got voted most involved in high school. And I don't know, looking back, if that's such a great moniker. Like, yeah, it was awesome to be involved in so many things, but I think picking and choosing so that you can really finesse and hone some of these skills over time is really important. And I would say that, certain clubs that I was involved in, like my Key Club, I was the most involved in. And there were other clubs that maybe not so much, that fell to the wayside a bit because I was concerned about the numbers and what things would look like on paper for my college application. I absolutely have been in those shoes, and I recall them, and the stress that comes along with it. So I would just, channel where your passions are and focus on the passions most of all. But yeah, I mean, with an evolution of involvement in whatever you decide to do and whatever path you take, whether it's in school, out of school, I would say, the longer you're involved in something, like you can look at a list of clubs when you're a freshman in high school and circle a couple and say, if these sound interesting to me, I'm going to take part in them and see what happens. And I would say, if as you're going, you can set a goal and say, I really enjoy this, and I think this is where I want to develop my leadership skill set. So I'm going to set the goal that I'll become an officer of some kind. I think that pathway was something that I explored doing, especially with Key Club, because I was passionate about it. And then those different leadership roles, have their own special, set of skills that come with each of them. As Andrea said, you might be on a public relations committee and heading it up for your student government or something like that. You might be. I was assistant editor of my high school newspaper, so a whole suite of skills comes with that, but my involvement in it originated from the fact that I love writing. So that was a way for me to channel that. But I think, when in Key Club in particular, I really love Key Club because Key Club can evolve beyond high school. I am not involved in my local Kiwanis chapter at all. I've drifted away from it, but I really like the continuity that they have at the high school level with Key Club, and then Circle K at the collegiate level. So if continuity is something you're looking for, that's something you can aspire to continue to build on when it comes to these skill sets. But then, on the flip side, if there are clubs that you think that you might be interested in and you start to get involved in them and you say to yourself, this isn't what I want, that's okay. It's okay to sort of, get to that point and have the sort of mental capacity to weigh the pros and cons of, if my time is being spent here, I'm missing out on dedicating my time elsewhere. So there's so many applications of all of these skill sets. And if something's not working out, I think that's a good skill set to learn too, is how to say no to something. But I'll hand it over to Colin.
Yeah, I think I'm going to talk about goal setting, and I'm going to call an audible and talk a little bit about my real world experience too. Stanzi's is inspiring me to do that a little bit. So I had a bit of a roundabout way through high school. I worked it so that I'd have my spring semester off of high school senior year. I got all of my requirements done for credits, and so that I could use that spring to volunteer. But the interesting thing is that I really wish that I had CFES when I was in high school age, because I just was of the opinion that college is college, and you can go anywhere and get the same education anywhere, and I don't really want to know what I'm going to major in. I'll figure that out later. And here we go. And I ended up deciding on University of Rhode Island because I had some older friends who were going to school there, and they had houses on the beach, and that was my reasoning to choose a school. And University of Rhode Island is a great school if you were going to pursue nursing, but I'm not looking to pursue nursing. And I basically got all of that so that before I go volunteer for the spring, I just want to get that all taken care of and be into a school and not have to think about it. So I have to admit, I come from a place of privilege, and I was able to go to Costa Rica and teach English for a semester that spring. And that was as you would imagine, a life-changing experience for me, because I, in that time, learned about what I was actually capable of. And it was a huge challenge because there's a language barrier, and I spent most of high school sleeping through Spanish class, which was a horrible decision. Would have been good to actually have paid attention in that class before you go to Spanish-speaking country. But I basically had to learn a different language, and I had to learn how to teach school children. And by the end of it, I felt like a totally new person, because I was like, whoa, I did this, and I want to be challenged, and I want to set my goals high. I want to set things that are not easy to attain, whereas up to that point, things had just kind of fallen into place for me. So within, a couple of weeks of going to University of Rhode Island and realizing I wanted to pursue writing, Stanzi, I have passion for that as well. I said, this is not the place. I need a smaller school with a program that's specific for this. And it was a pretty big emotional thing for me to go to my parents and say, I messed up, I made this wrong decision. And they just said, it's fine. We're glad that you realized this. And I was able to transfer to a to a school that was better suited for my what I wanted to do. And I think that the point is that don't ever sell yourself short. Don't ever, just because things are easy and they're working, just say, okay, I'll go with it. Oh, there's this volunteer opportunity, and I sit in a chair for 2 hours while people sign in, and I'll put this on my resume. You are all capable of more than that. You're capable of setting your sights higher than even you could probably fathom. And so don't sell yourself short, I guess, and set those goals when you practice on goal setting your goals super high. You're going to come out with a much greater sense of satisfaction. And when we're talking within this realm of a transition into the steps after high school, it's going to give you such good momentum going forward when you hit those goals that you set high for yourself.
Absolutely. Thanks for that. Yeah, no, these extracurriculars, there's a wide variety. You all talked about different things because they were things that you were passionate about. And I love this idea of trying something and allowing it to not work out and being okay with that. Because, right, so sometimes we talk about perseverance and, just do it, keep trying, even though it's hard. And in a certain sense, that is good. But eventually it is a whole nother skill to say, nope, this is not quite what I was thinking. But just trying it out. Take a friend to a club meeting, right? If you're not sure about it, take a friend. They'll, maybe it's a little more fun to go with someone you know. But yeah, these were great examples. Thank you so much. And so, yeah, I guess just kind of starting to wrap it up. How do students get involved? I know, I guess for myself, I definitely found out through my high school, did some National Honor Society. So they were kind of, giving out opportunities. They were, a wealth of knowledge. But how else? Are there other ways to find out?
I'll tackle that. Building on what something that Colin and Stanzi both said just sparked a new thought. And if you are hearing about things that are going on in your community, or you're seeing, certain, this is in response to the comment that Colin made about seeing problems in your community, and if there's nothing that is being that's tickling your fancy, as it were, or you're piquing your interest at the school level, is find out who the nonprofit organizations are that are doing exciting work in your region, because even at the high school level, nonprofit organizations are the ones on the ground addressing some of these concerns and issues in your community. And don't be afraid to reach out to them, because, people like Stanzi and I who work at a nonprofit would love to have excited high school students say, hey, how do we get involved in, helping, hungry people during the pandemic? How do we help with giving out food? Or how do we help with trail maintenance? Organizations like your community foundation, or your church, or other just nonprofits working on those specific areas can really be helpful to helping you get involved, or just referring you somewhere to say, hey, I heard about this program. Maybe you could talk to somebody about that. So, getting over shyness was always my biggest obstacle when I was in high school. I was painfully shy, and I never would have even been able to do a panel discussion like this. It was terrible. So, it's hard to sometimes jump out of your comfort zone to ask those questions about ways that you can get involved. But, your school and your church community, or, like in Lake Placid, we have the Chamber of Commerce puts out a public e-newsletter with cool things that are happening in the business community, but also in the nonprofit community and in the, the Olympic region, just to bring it back down to the hyper local level. But just keep an eye out on your newspapers and different ways. And as Stanzi said, sometimes your parents are involved in interesting things that, might not be very exciting to you because it's your parents' thing, but not your thing. But if it's something that interests you, just ask them how to get involved. But, I think also Lake Placid school has a requirement for all seniors to have a certain number of community service hours. So the schools really are pretty dialed into what those opportunities are. And also seniors often have to do a senior project, which, you know, like Stonesy said, I think actually Stonesy wasn't the climate summit, might have been someone's senior project. Or, you know, there are a lot of really cool things, like there's an environmental club that was started by someone's senior project, and it sparks interest with the fellow students. And there are a lot of, you know, your fellow students are great resources for things that can be making an impact in your community and making an impact on you as you decide where it is you want to go and what you want to do and with your life. So,
I love that you talked about just talking to someone, getting a referral from them, or just, you know, trying to find out ideas, right? Because if you ask someone, they don't have to know the answer, but having them using that networking, right? Just talking to people, asking questions, that's going to get you a lot further than you think. Because even if you don't know if they have the right answer, so certainly talking, I gotta plug CFES. So CFES has a huge network, both of our schools and our partners, including the Adirondack Foundation. So just ask around, ask your school liaison. Schools in the Adirondacks, our Gear Up schools. Colin does have a list, he mentioned, of links that we can send out after this. So if you are a student in the Adirondacks and you want to get involved, certainly reach out to me, Rose at brilliantpathways.org, or if you're a Gear Up school, reach out to your Gear Up fellow and we can definitely get you some more information. I guess I'll just open it up for any last advice, and just go from there.
Yeah, it's funny. I really like getting the questions ahead of time and thinking about them. As someone who did, I feel like everything wrong on my way out of high school. Or I did some things right, but I don't think I prepared myself as well as I could have. And I don't think at that time I was as in touch with who I truly was. And I think I was kind of just like, I play football and I do this club and these are my friends. And it really felt like I got twisted and pulled and around. And I guess the only advice I could give is just schedule some time to go for a hike by yourself. And don't invite any friends, no family, and just go for a long hike and just kind of just take that time to reflect and think about, what do I really love to do? When I'm doing this thing, do I feel the most happy, the most excited? And if you take the time to just connect with that, almost have like a meditation day and just get in touch with that when you get to that point where, okay, I've got my web browser open and I'm going to start Googling like a maniac, trying to find what opportunities are out there, you're going to be so much more targeted and so much more organized in your search. I love what Andrea said about your community foundation. I have learned so much about the nonprofit network through interacting with the Adirondack Foundation. But there are other community foundations locally, and there's so many all over the nation, and they are the ones plugged in with the nonprofit world. And the nice thing about nonprofit world is you're going to find people who are very passionate about what they do. And you're going to find people who are a lot younger and who are giving back to their communities, people that are not that different from you. So that's a great place to start. And that's a networking thing, like you were saying, Rose. So it would be two parts. It would be take that time to really get in touch with what sets your soul on fire, and then take that and apply it into your networking and your Google searching, and you will have success. You will find something that will enrich your life. I guarantee it. Guarantee it.
Yeah, I love that. It's very important from an early age, amid all of the busyness, to just stop and ask yourself, what makes me happy? It's not always an easy question to answer, but if you keep asking yourself as you're going through things, whether it's volunteering or whatnot, you'll eventually start to get some inkling of what makes you happy. And I think just building off just one last comment on the networking piece of things. I was very privileged and fortunate to have a college planner when I was younger, and she helped me pretty much all throughout high school. I had meetings with her, and she did some personality test type of things, and just to determine like what could I explore for potential career pathways. But the networking, view every interaction you have with anybody as a potential networking opportunity. And it is very hard. Networking's very hard. And, you have to really open up and get out of your comfort zone when it comes to networking many times. Because you'll encounter a lot of different personalities when you start networking. Some are easier to navigate than others. And that's just the way of human nature. But it teaches you a lot about people. But when it comes to networking, I think, I love what Andrea said about just reaching out to nonprofits. And you can do that with anywhere. You could reach out to your local hospital if healthcare is something that you're interested in pursuing. And every organization, whether it's for-profit or nonprofit, will have volunteer opportunities somewhere, some way that you can kind of dip your toe in the water and explore. So never be afraid to ask, like, can I come shadow somebody? Can I, when I was pursuing like pre-med when I was younger, and I shadowed a cardiologist one time. That's just one example. So, getting out of your comfort zone is really important in life. And the earlier you start doing it, the more comfortable you will feel as you go on in life when you encounter those situations. So, challenging yourself, as Colin was saying, is really important. But most importantly, it's just asking yourself, what makes me happy? And one piece of quote that I always love to give to one last piece of advice I love to give to high school students is the quote that just remembering that you are not pizza. You cannot make everybody happy. That's very important as you're young and navigating things, is just focus on yourself and worry less about what other people think. I think no matter, especially when you're thinking about what things look like on paper, that's just an important perspective to just keep top of mind. So fun one. I like.
Fantastic piece of advice. I really love that. That is a great metaphor. All right. Well, I think that is just about all the time we have for today. I really want to thank you all so much for talking about and sharing all this information with us. It's really awesome, because I think that sometimes as a high schooler, you don't really know how to get started. And I think that this really will help students kind of get on those first steps towards getting involved in extracurriculars. So thank you all very much. All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.